Hi, I hope everyone's having a productive and wonderful day today. In this video, I'm going to be doing a twin flame energy check-in reading. There are three groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Aventurine heart. Group 2 is the black Moonstone heart. And group 3 is the rose quartz heart. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. Chose the Aventurine heart. So let's start by taking a look at what are the thoughts and feelings of your twin flame towards you and in regards to the connection right now. Okay, we have the King of Cups, the Hanged Man, King of Pentacles, attachment, anxiety, and blossoming abundance. So with these energies I'm hearing, have I waited too long? And so it feels like there's some kind of heartfelt conversation, something that they're wanting to admit to or confess to. This may even indicate, letting you know that they love you or that they regret like what has happened in the past and there's a desire for a fresh start, but they've been really caught up in their mind as far as the right timing, a sense of not wanting to put you through any more back and forth than has been the case up to this point in time. And so it's almost like they might have felt more comfortable in some kind of distance, some kind of silence. But then there's a sense of almost feeling you evolving and kind of like moving beyond them. You're focusing on your self-worth, your healing journey, kind of trying to cultivate your best life in the here and now, or a life that you are comfortable within. And there's a sense of almost wanting to be there by your side through kind of whatever that next phase or chapter looks like for you. They may have also been working on some things as well. And there's a sense of like, I want to build with you towards the future. I don't want to be left behind. I don't want the silence that may have developed between the two of us or unspoken words to be kind of the legacy that we leave behind. I don't want to wait for another lifetime or the possibility of another lifetime to encounter you on the earth plane and have that be the time when our love story unfolds. So it feels like they are watching you from afar or kind of looking at this connection or their options in this situation, either to remain kind of stuck in this energy of denial, silence, anything that's kind of caused them to sort of pull back their energy or to sort of withhold truth from you, or there's the option of kind of the full disclosure, laying it all out on the table. And even if it looks messy moving forward, to at least put one foot in front of the other as far as evolving beyond kind of a stalemate energy at this particular point in time. But there's a sense that they don't really want to upset the momentum you have going on in your life. You may have made some very profound changes. You may have released certain things, certain attachments to them, to the situation, to other circumstances in your life. It's like you shed a version of yourself and you are becoming or have become quite unrecognizable to them, which is almost filling them with a sense of panic of kind of like, I don't want to be totally written out of your story. And I know I have to take that step forward, but is it too late to kind of make amends? Is it too late for me to kind of catch up with where you are? Maybe some things that they need to move away from in their own reality in order to be on level playing field with you. And there's a sense of like, are we still able to kind of see eye to eye? Would something that would be confessed an apology given, an admission that is made, would that be something that would bring us closer together, would strengthen our bond so that we can work in tandem, work as a team towards the future of this connection? Or is that something which would either be rejected by you, or would that create even more kind of like distance, like you've already evolved beyond it? This can definitely be like a no contact situation, and they're not sure sort of like, have you moved on from them? Do you still feel the same way that you once did? Because it feels like they feel a lot for you that has been within them for a long time. It's like time and space has only intensified these feelings. They've not been able to move on or forget you. Maybe if they've kind of like checked out at times from this connection and then sort of like pop back in, observe from afar, it's almost like you continue to flourish. You're stepping into a very beautiful phase of yourself, or like a version of yourself, and it's only highlighting for this person the deep desire that they have. Like you continue to become even more of like the right person for them. And even if it might have been like the wrong time before, there's a sense of like, I want to try to move things beyond where we're at now. I want a fresh start. I want to crack open those seeds of potential between the two of us and see if we can work through the difficulties or try to make it work with whatever obstacles may be in place at this point. So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they're struggling with right now. Okay, we have spiritual union and hope. So these energies are speaking about like a glow up that you have gone through, something that is very like obvious when they look at it. Other people may have noticed this, kind of your social situation may have changed, what you're doing professionally may have changed, how you're living your life has changed for the better. Even if you're kind of like, you're still struggling, you're still doing some shadow work, you're still in the midst of a transitional period, they see you as very radiant. They are able in some way to kind of see, okay, you've shifted your narrative arc in a more positive direction, and you've done this in spite of what has happened between the two of you. You've done it very independent of this connection. Maybe even the ways in which you've mastered the ability, or are working to master the ability, to kind of tap into the higher vibration between the two of you, like the 5D connection between you and your twin flame, and not focus so much on like physical 3D material union. And it's kind of like, all right, our souls have, this strange and kind of like wonderful connection with one another, regardless of what's happening in the material world. I'm just going to take that knowing, and I'm going to move forward with my actual 3D life. I'm not going to hold space for this person anymore. I'm not going to wait around. I'm not going to let time just kind of slip away from me, and there's nothing that changes with them. If they're meant to catch up further down the road, then they will. And if they don't, then I will just accept that as it is for this lifetime. Like they're sensing that kind of shift in you in some sort of way that it feels like is very intimidating for them, because it's almost like they may have taken a step back from this connection, but you may have then taken a step or many steps forward in your life in other ways. And it's almost like this distance has allowed them to see you for who you are, for who you're becoming. Like you're actualizing a lot of raw potential within you. You're making really good choices for yourself in alignment with your highest good. You're not letting fear and ego kind of dictate your path forward, but you're making tough choices in the interest of, I have to love myself enough to gravitate toward healthy, reciprocal relationships with myself and others. And they're witnessing this in some sort of way. And so there's almost like a fear that they won't fit in with kind of this new version of you, or this new life that you've cultivated. They may have kind of put off making some tough decisions, or they've kind of just been lingering within those very like ego-based energies, in denial, not really doing the work in themselves, not introspecting, not kind of like making better choices for themselves. And it's a sense of like, I have so much to do to catch up with you. And I'm struggling to understand if like the version of myself that comes through some sort of initiation period, some sort of, catharsis that needs to take place, or transformation, or, dark night of the soul, like death and rebirth energy. that version of themselves, it's almost like unrecognizable to them. And there's a sense of they can't even fathom what that version of them will be. And does this equate with kind of who you're becoming? So they see you as somebody like your star is on the rise, and it may as well really be illustrating for them how they've been prioritizing kind of the wrong things. They've been taking the easy route of just sort of remaining within the toxic cycles and patterns. And so they're seeing you as someone who has done the exact opposite of that. Even when it's been hard, you've let go of the things that have limited you or that fed into that kind of limited narrative. You've expanded beyond the version of yourself that in the past would have tolerated wishy-washy behavior on their part or lower vibrational interactions, that would have just kind of taken on toxicity and thought it was your obligation to kind of carry the weight of that. For other people, for them within the situation, it's like you've let those burdens go in some sort of way and you're choosing you again and again. And so there's a sense of like they deeply admire that, they respect that, they want to emulate that or be part of kind of that next chapter of your life and your reality. But there's a sense of like feeling so far behind, fearing that you're leaving them behind or will leave them behind, or that you're evolving in two different directions, or that would be the case if they started to do some of this work, kind of fast track themselves through a process of personal transformation and empowerment. But then there's also the sense of feeling they've wasted time, like they missed the message, they missed the memo, they didn't get it, they didn't understand kind of the things that might have been mirrored to them. They might have been sort of ignoring signs and synchronicities, ignoring their intuition, ignoring their heart, their higher guidance. And now it's like this rude awakening. They're seeing you in this very radiant energy, and it's illustrating for them in a very painful way kind of the result of choosing sort of that limited paradigm, that limited timeline, because you definitely jumped timelines. You're operating at a different frequency. It's very obvious. It's like a obvious glow about you that they're able to sense, that other people are able to sense. And so it's a challenge of kind of like, okay, if we're really meant to be, there's almost a sense of fearing you may outshine them in some sort of way. So they could be struggling a bit still with ego at this point, or kind of like, what do I have to bring to the table with this person that has made some tough choices in their life, but they bet on themselves and it's worked. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. Okay, we have soulmates, King of Swords, and crystals focus. Yeah, so it feels like this is somebody with this idea of like the two penguins on here with the soulmates energy, your birds of a feather, and they're wanting to break out of that iciness, out of the silence, kind of thinking of the right thing to say, getting very serious about like, I can't waste any more time, with over perfectionism. I can't waste any more time sort of like trying to control the outcome or waiting for the perfect moment. It's kind of like any window of opportunity they may have seen, it's like they've second guessed themselves in the past. It's like, I need to just go for it. I need to just put myself out there. I just need to make myself clear, as messy as it might be, that I want to try and work on this. I don't want to become obsolete in your life. I don't want to be somebody that you leave behind. It's like they're right at the end of this cycle of being very like closed off, very rigid, very guarded. It's like it's hard for them to hold back their feelings or to continue to enable kind of this fear-based mentality of like, well, whatever the conflicts might have been in the past, sort of like maybe we're just too different for it to work, or the intensity of the feelings for you in the past that could have caused them to sort of like run from this situation, or just go into like freeze mode in some sort of way. There's a sense of like, I don't want to live with the reality that I've let something so good slip through my fingers because I let fear and being intimidated kind of determine my actions or inactions in this situation. So it feels like they're preparing to kind of like rise to the challenge, trying to rise to the level to meet you. Things that it may be that they're looking around at this point in time and like, what are some things that don't align with like the best version of me? What are some things, interpersonal relationships, personal habits, mindsets, the narrative that I'm telling myself or that I'm allowing other people to kind of program into me that don't resonate with like feeling my best, feeling worthy of like a beautiful partnership or a beautiful life for myself. What are some things that I can very quickly and easily kind of cut out of my reality that at least is a step in a better direction? So if you're on this kind of paradigm of personal growth and empowerment, they can at least come towards you and say, I'm working on some things too. I'm focusing my attentions in that direction. I'm not enabling like the toxicity in the way that I once did. I'm not enabling the energy of denial or suppressing my feelings. I'm not going to let fear be my master anymore. And so it feels like there may be something, communication after a period of time, reaching out after a period of time, something that may even just be kind of, a small step in a better direction, but it feels like renews some sort of hope within you that this person is trying, that they're progressing. It might even be where if they're not at the place where they're comfortable or ready enough to, speak to you directly, they may start posting things on their social media, kind of like hoping that you're watching, knowing that you're watching, that are evidence of like, I'm making a change for the better. I'm shifting my mindset. I'm working on certain priorities and goals. I'm cutting out kind of the unhealthy things, the filler that just sort of distracted me and kept me kind of stuck within limited or negative cycles. Something where it's almost like hoping that you'll catch sight of that. And then it's almost like a little wink at you, things that you might have talked about before or that you knew about this person that were kind of like bringing them down or were contributing in some way to kind of, difficulties that they were having. And so it's almost like making change for themselves, but putting it out there in such a way, announcing it in such a way that it's like, if you're able to find out about this, maybe you'll be proud of them. Maybe you'll understand. It's like, hey, I'm finally moving. I'm finally taking steps in a different direction. You're choosing yourself. I'm finally choosing me as well. I'm hoping to kind of create more of a parallel path with you rather than remaining very stuck in place. I'm making an effort. I'm coming. I'm coming towards you as quickly as I can. And for others, this will just be, sort of like that leap of faith and like, okay, take a deep breath, just reach out and create that communication. And it signals kind of like a new cycle for the two of you, something where, you may have to kind of get to know one another again, or there may be a lot to discuss, a lot that was held back or, in the past, or a lot that kind of needs to be sort of worked through and forgiven where applicable, and kind of just moved beyond where that's applicable as well, in order to, start to work together as a team rather than kind of in opposition to one another. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. Okay, we have Medicine Mother, honor your inner knowing. So this is encouraging you to just be open and receptive to the changes that your twin flame is in the process of trying to make. They're taking that first step. For some, it'll be inward, to kind of like move beyond the energies of denial, confront that fear head on. And so, you can kind of be that sort of silent support for them by continuing to sort of address your own emotional needs. Anything that comes up, anything that you have been kind of avoiding or running from or been in the energy of denial about, this would be a great time to sort of follow that lead, or even kind of initiate that cycle within, kind of some internal work to continue to do or that needs to be done. But, just be sort of continue almost like on the path that you've set for yourself, but definitely be open-minded about sort of what the next cycle may have in store, changes that may be able to occur between the two of you, because it feels like they have taken note of some sort of evolution within you, and they're very motivated, to change, to kind of like bring something different into this situation, to start contributing rather than being just kind of, an anchor that sort of is a reminder of like the limits of their past, or the past between the two of you. This is someone that's trying to create some momentum in a better direction for themselves, as inspired by you, in the interest of kind of, not being written out of your story completely. And so the more that you continue to kind of like tend to your own needs, and kind of just keep that sort of understanding that just as you have been moved by your own kind of motivations, or moved by spirit in some sort of way, to start to address certain things, trusting that that is now taking place with this individual, rather than kind of like pursuing or chasing, or getting very anxious about like, okay, when are they going to come back in? What's that evolution going to look like? Just be open, just be kind of sensitive and receptive to the signs that may come in, the little signs that they give, even if it's something where they're posting things on social media in the hopes that it's like, okay, I'm not yet ready to have that conversation, but maybe you'll see this and it will serve as that kind of understanding for you that I'm now participating actively in the cycle of change. I'm not resisting it anymore. Sort of take that for what it is, but almost as like a confirmation of, okay, this isn't just one-sided. This isn't just you're doing all the heavy lifting. Now it's this person's opportunity to kind of get up and start to kind of go with that wave of momentum in the same way that you've needed to. And then when those energies are aligned, when they've rearranged some things in their life, they've let go of some things in their life, they've kind of come through that sort of challenge of fear or resistance or denial or whatever's kind of like created issues between the two of you in the past, it feels like, they're very magnetized towards you. They're trying to make their way towards you. So remaining in that kind of like open energy can really allow you to sort of receive the best and the most beautiful of what's possible between you and your twin flame, kind of in this next phase of your connection. Okay, so let's get some message cards from your twin flame's higher self and see what they want you to know. Okay, and we have, you are so unexpected. Yeah, so whatever you've been doing at this point in your life to sort of make changes for the better, focus on your blessings and not so much on kind of the things that you're unable to change, or the disappointments that you faced in the past, or challenges you're currently facing, all of that has had a very positive and measurable and obvious effect on your energy. What you're kind of focusing on, what you're putting out there about yourself, and even just like a level of radiance about you that your twin flame, it feels like, is very attracted to. They're very drawn to it because it highlights something inside of themselves. It feels like they're now embarking on this process within their own journey of kind of clearing away the things that have dimmed their own light, that have kind of distracted them from the essence of sort of the radiance that they too hold inside, that is a match for who and what you are. You're a mirror for each other in a very beautiful way. You've mirrored shadows and wounds to each other, but it's also the healing and the light that is mirrored. And so they're seeing that right now. You're standing in your light. Maybe as you're confronting your shadows, working on those wounds, it's making your light even brighter. And so they have noticed this, and it's definitely piqued their curiosity and is drawing their attention at this time. They also say, I regret how I handled things before. So this is definitely somebody that wants to have a do-over. They want to make up for lost time. There may be an apology that's owed, or a conversation that needs to take place. So it feels like they're getting ready. They're working up the courage. They're working up the nerve to reach out, to let go of their defenses, take down their walls, remove any masks that have been in place, and just sort of allow the truth of the energy and kind of the love between the two of you to do the talking. They also say, I've been having weird dreams about us. So a lot may be going on, again, within kind of like the higher realms, as you have sort of let go of the expectations of outcomes in the situation. You know, maybe you've discontinued sort of like chasing this person for love or attention or affection, chasing the idea of like physical 3D union, and you've refocused onto yourself. You know, you're tapping into kind of that higher awareness, that higher potential, the higher self, but then putting the bulk of your efforts on sort of things that you do have the ability to kind of control or can contribute your energy or time or efforts to, and they're blossoming in other areas of your life in the 3D. That's having like a ripple effect on your twin flame. They're picking up on kind of a way in which you are shifting how you are relating to this connection energetically or to them energetically. And so this has almost been kind of a cue or an indicator to them. Okay, you're taking some of the energetic pressure off that they may have sensed and been unable to really articulate or decipher in the past, but might have made them sort of uncomfortable or, you know, nervous, or felt that there was like pressure on in some sort of way. And so it's given this person some breathing room, some ability to kind of like receive the same sort of essence that you've received, kind of start to look at this from a very different perspective. It's almost like seeing this situation that you can build a dream life with one another, and that you are also, you know, very strongly aligned in kind of creating more of an ideal lives for yourselves individually, that then there's almost a sense of, I hope that we can like intersect as those better versions of ourselves, because I'm seeing you now from a different perspective, and it's given me a different understanding of you, of the journey that you're on the journey that we're on together, and therefore, you know, kind of different eyes with which to sort of look at my own personal journey in order to kind of step out of the energy of sort of sleepwalking through life and to start to become an active participant. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We got Z, V, F, T, S, R, U, D, P, S, G, H, M, H, N, L, A, B, T, and F. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the black moonstone heart. So let's start by taking a look at what are your twin flames' thoughts and feelings about you and the state of the connection right now. Okay, we have the Fool, Seven of Wands, the Emperor, Woman holding a coin, Action, and Caring connections. So these energies I'm hearing, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. This person, it feels like they feel like a fool for questioning your intentions with them, being very resistant to the love you may have tried to offer in the past. It feels like you've pulled your energy back in some sort of way. You're matching their energy or past energy. They may have rejected or pushed you away or kind of given you mixed signals. And there's a sense of you've just redirected your focus. You're in a very unbothered energy. And so there's almost a sense now of feeling like, I didn't mean for you to go. I didn't mean to create all of this distance. I was acting out of impulse. I didn't know what I was doing. It feels like they're feeling very frustrated with themselves because there's almost a sense of like understanding in some way that they've gotten in their own way in this situation. Past patterns have sort of reared their ugly head, and now it's almost like you've revealed something about your true colors in the sense of you're not going to chase this person's affection. If you had it at a particular point in time, it's almost like you realized your worth or kind of like came out of that energy and was almost like, what am I doing? Why? Nothing of value is to be obtained if I have to like compel someone or convince someone to choose me. Like I've come too far in my life and my own journey to go through that. And so it's almost like they feel that they've messed up in this situation. So they've taken some kind of misstep in the circumstance and that you have the upper hand now. And so it's making them feel, again, very like frustrated at themselves. There's a sense of almost, why do I keep doing this? It's maybe bringing up a lot of wounds as far as like self-sabotage in other areas of their life are concerned. Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep pushing away good people or good things? Why do I keep messing up when things are going my way? Why do I look for something to mistrust about situations? So this may be where they're having to kind of, all these questions are almost leading them, it feels like, within this labyrinth of some shadow work that they may need to do, that it's almost like your response to them and sort of anything that's happened. You know, you've taken a step back, you've shifted your focus in some sort of way, and you may have done so just very quietly, without any sort of outburst, without a scene, without kind of, giving them a piece of your mind, sort of just, okay, I can respect what it is you're showing me, and I respect myself enough to not play that game, to not participate in things that way. That's not what I'm looking for in a dynamic. You may have been very direct even and told them like, this isn't what I'm looking for. Come correct or don't come at all. And so it feels like it's almost humbled them in some sort of way, or it's made them look at you from a different lens. They're seeing your value and your worth now in a way that wasn't apparent to them. They may not have ever encountered anyone before that like knew their own value and worth. This person may be used to playing like mind games or feeding their ego with sort of lower vibrational connections, needy people, clingy people, people who are willing to people please or placate them. And you are a very different animal. You're somebody that they've never encountered before. And it feels like it's very uncomfortable, that almost kind of like, even if they were the one to sort of like shut things down in this situation, it's almost like they messed up. They don't have the upper hand in this situation. They didn't discard you. You simply moved in a different direction. You enforced some sort of boundaries or created some sort of boundaries that they didn't anticipate from you. They didn't anticipate you'd shut them out in this way, or that you had this in you to kind of respond to this circumstance. They may be used to people kind of vying for their attention. They thought they had you wrapped around their little finger and they didn't, or they don't anymore. And so it's really been food for thought for them. And there's a sense of almost recognizing in some sort of way that changing their tune with you, changing their approach, it represents like a level up in their life. Like they're seeing you as an asset. Anyone would be lucky to have you by their side. You bring out the best in people, and they may be used to interpersonal relationships where people bring out like the worst in them, or they bring out the worst in people. And so they almost just assumed that would be the case here. They may have assumed you had some kind of motive, like you were only with them for status or money, or, to feel desired and loved. And there was a sense of, they may have encountered people, a lot of people like that, or, just somebody like that in the past where they felt really used, really taken advantage of. And so they questioned kind of the nature of the connection. They tested the connection, or just outright kind of shoved you away in some manner. And so there's a sense of like your response to that, how you've now moved according to what they've done. It's almost like they've made a mistake with you. They didn't handle this properly. And you've shifted something that has kind of given them a different understanding, where this might almost be somebody who's kind of questioning, like, what did I do in my life in order to call in an experience like this? Like, you represent some sort of invitation for them to step out of this toxicity themselves. They're seeing you as somebody who represents a different kind of life, or a different kind of partnership that's available than everything they've known before. And again, it's this energy of like feeling like a fool for pushing you away, or anything that they've done to like sabotage, or, kind of cause you to put your defenses up as far as they are concerned. They made assumptions about you, your motives in this situation, that it feels like have been proven very wrong on their part. And so there's almost the sense of like an apology being owed, an explanation being owed, but it may even be they feel that it's kind of a tricky situation with that, because there might not have been anything sort of said as far as outright accusations. It's just how they've moved with you. And so there's a sense of like, how do I course correct? I can't speak on this directly, maybe because it was never spoken on before, but how do I get back into your good graces? So let's take a look at some challenges, obstacles, blocks, and fears that they're dealing with right now. Okay, we have foundation and achievement, and solitude. So it feels like they are feeling that kind of like a defeatist attitude has disrupted the progress you had made with one another up to this point. Kind of the idea of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but this is like a giant step back that has been taken in the situation. Maybe you've taken a big step back from them, or, you handled the situation, whatever has happened, where they've been kind of resistant, or they've been testing the circumstance. There's been any sort of rejection, and, you've adjusted yourself accordingly. There's a sense of almost really sort of questioning themselves, feeling very much like there's almost like questioning sort of both what has happened in terms of upset within this situation, other interpersonal connections. It's almost sort of like maybe everyone else wasn't the problem. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I'm the common denominator in kind of all these other circumstances that fell apart, or some kind of wounding, some sort of one person from the past used me, or, disappointed me, or hurt me, or betrayed me. And I then punished anybody that tried to come in and show me love, including you. And so there's a sense of almost feeling that they're their own worst enemy, or that they're very kind of, that happiness will be sort of elusive to them in a deep sense in terms of what they've touched on with you, what was possible with you, but just kind of they're looking at their life from like a bird's eye perspective, the bigger picture almost, and sort of like, I keep calling in these opportunities for beauty and for success and for fulfillment. And when things are going well, I get uncomfortable, I get nervous, I get paranoid, I get aggressive, and I do things to dismantle it. I question it. I put pressure upon the situation, and it always crumbles. And so there's a sense of almost like This has been the narrative. This is kind of how many things in their life it's been written that way. It's just kind of turned out the same. Different people, different circumstances, same result. And so there's almost a sense like, how do I turn the page from that? How do I turn a new leaf? Where do I begin? How do I get to the root of this issue within me that creates disruptions to where I'm almost like the master of my own sabotage? I'm responsible for much of my own disappointment. How do I flip that paradigm? How do I flip that script? How do I alchemize that tendency, that woundedness, that aspect of my character? And how do I use that to instead kind of decimate obstacles that stand between where I am presently and wish fulfillment that I want to experience further down the road? So it's almost, again, a sense of, it may be a struggle to kind of, for this person to take personal responsibility, or they may feel very almost like overwhelmed by this idea of sort of like operating as their own worst enemy, and how that kind of dovetails into many different circumstances in their life, not just this situation right now with you, but like other things that they've been through, and trying to almost not spiral into this place where they're just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just the villain in everybody's story. Then it's all just my fault. And then that getting them nowhere other than just in a different form, perpetuating this kind of unhappiness. It's like, how do I harness that energy and become like the hero of my own narrative? How do I work through this? How do I kind of save the day for myself, or save myself from this tendency, or kind of the creation of situations like this? So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. We have music, harmony, the high priestess, and community. So this feels like for the time being, this person's going to kind of like remain in the shadows, licking their wounds. Their ego might be very hurt at this particular point in time. It's a sense of like, I need to make some sort of change within myself before I can bring anything of value to you. But they may get somebody to kind of like help them keep an eye on you. In addition to sort of like watching you on social media, this may be somebody who has like eyes and ears on you within your community. People that they're sort of like asking about you to, or kind of like, hey, if let me know anything as far as like this person is concerned. Like, if they're, maybe moving on, or are they trying to date somebody else? What is kind of their focus? What are, they may be, sort of people that in common, making a point to kind of like not come back towards you, but not totally sort of release the possibility of something more in this connection. Because again, you've almost, the stance that you've taken with this person, they feel very foolish for kind of how they've approached you or how they've handled this situation. And there's a sense of like, do you even want to hear from them? Is this a salvageable situation, or have they just like totally messed everything up? And so there's a sense of like, they see that you have kind of changed your tune as far as they're concerned. And so there's a sense of almost like, I need to tune some things up within myself before I'm able to kind of participate with you in an open and an honest way. Because something that has happened has kind of been a very sharp awareness on their part of like a shortcoming, a very obvious kind of wound within. This is not the first circumstance where it's reared its ugly head and it's like, okay, I've lassoed this now. I got to deal with this. I got to tame this aspect of me. I have to, cage this aspect of me up in some sort of way, or get a greater understanding or handle on it, because you're not going to tolerate this from me. You've made it very clear that like, this is not acceptable. This is not what you're looking for. And so it's a sense of feeling very like frustrated that they're now in this position. This is almost something that it may be kind of a rude awakening for them, or it's very hard for them to kind of accept, this aspect of themselves, or sort of like face these shadows. But there's a sense that they almost like don't have any other choice. You may have spoken about this to other people, and so they've gotten wind of that. They've heard about that. Of you're just kind of like, I'm not tolerating this. I'm better than this. I've worked harder in my life to kind of overcome obstacles to put up with something like this, or I'm done, participating with this person in this way. Something that's kind of become clear to them, where it's almost sort of like retreating within themselves, even deeper, or maybe even for the first time, to start to recognize and realize, like, how can I evolve as a person so that I can come back towards you in some sort of way and take the lead in this situation, so that we're doing a different dance with one another than has been the case up to this point in time. It feels like in the meantime, they'll be almost kind of like sending sort of like apologetic thoughts. Like, I'm just hearing, I'm sorry, and kind of like repeating that over and over and over again. Like, whenever they think about you, it may just kind of tumble them into this energy of like, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I mishandled this, but they don't feel necessarily ready to kind of like step beyond their ego and express that out loud. So it's just kind of like a watching and waiting energy, feeling that they're needing to like punish themselves, or they've been put in the corner almost, for kind of testing this situation or mishandling this situation. It's almost like you're teaching this person a lesson at this particular point in time by how you're either sort of moving on from this situation, or, you kind of like have enough self-respect that you weren't going to participate with whatever they were doing before. You matched their energy, that it's given them kind of a different perspective of that they need to grow up in some sort of way. And so it feels like this is something where they're almost kind of sitting with the nature of this lesson, that may even be kind of like divinely inspired. It may be like your spirit teams are like, okay, you each need to go in your separate corners and kind of think about what's happened, or sort of what you want for yourselves for the future, before you're able to come back together, with one another and kind of have progress in the material world. There needs to be some kind of like personal evolution in some capacity. And so it feels like this is like more sort of out of sight, but not out of mind. So let's get some guidance about the situation. Okay, we have Spirit Fox, trust your talents in changing times. Yeah, so there's a sense of don't be fooled by the silence. This person is very aware of kind of like what has happened, how they've been humbled. There's a sense that they feel they've made an error or a mistake here. So, allow them this time to kind of like lick their wounds, sit within that energy of the lesson. Anything that you feel guided to do as far as like setting your sights elsewhere romantically, anything that you're being compelled to sort of look at as far as wounding within that has been triggered, just pouring your energy into yourself and kind of your personal growth and evolution, and continuing to stay strong, or, like hold those boundaries as far as like you've drawn a line in the sand with this person and they need to sort of change their attitude or change their approach to you, or you're going to move forward with your life in other ways. That this is something that it feels like will continue to keep you in like the proper position for what is necessary for them to, it almost feels like this is sort of a crucial juncture in their own like personal development of needing to really look face to face in a very kind of harsh and uncomfortable way at like, how have I self-sabotaged? How have I been kind of the author of the self-fulfilling prophecy up to this point in time in terms of like wounding and disappointment? How have I projected those wounds onto other people? How have I pushed away blessings of love and happiness and success in terms of this connection and in like other areas of their life? And they need to go through that process of kind of unpacking all of that within themselves in order to get to the root cause, get to the answer, and then at that point come to that crossroads moment of, okay, I can repeat this pattern and cycle or choose to kind of keep that awareness in mind and continue to like take steps in a different direction. So it's almost like this person needs to descend very far within their own shadow in order to be able to climb out of some kind of hole that they've dug themselves into through how they've treated you, and maybe like other circumstances in their life, and just kind of not dealing with wounds, either not knowing that they had wounds to deal with in the past, or being in denial about that, kind of avoiding that in some way. There's something that they need to kind of do on their own before they're able to kind of come towards you in more of a higher vibrational energy. So this is almost kind of as well like rejection is divine protection at this particular stage in time. So it's very important to kind of just, keep your vibe as high as you can by focusing on the things that you can change in your life. Not sort of like waiting for this person to like come around and make things right, but trying to come to a place of peace or acceptance about the situation, congratulating yourself on any kind of boundaries that you've put in place, anything where you've kind of chosen yourself as opposed to, just kind of participating in sort of a toxic or a low vibrational cycle with them will, kind of keep your energy focused on only high vibrational experiences, which gives them that invitation of sort of like, this is the point on the horizon to sort of aim towards if they're hoping to come back towards you for reconciliation, or just to create something better and more productive out of your dynamic with one another. So let's get some message cards and see what they want you to know from their higher self. Okay, and we have suddenly all the songs I hear are about you. Yeah, so, they may be kind of just crying in their cup at this particular point in time, listening to love songs, listening to like a playlist of songs they have that remind them of you. And it's bringing them into almost like the descent into a very dark place at this point, knowing what they had now that it's gone, now that they've messed something up, feeling that you're kind of drifting apart, you're growing apart from one another as opposed to together. And this period of like isolation or separateness, it feels like is almost the prelude to being able to kind of rise stronger with one another. And they need to feel these difficult feelings. They need to feel the loss of you, of the nature of your dynamic previously, or the connection altogether, in order to be able to kind of really make a commitment within themselves, to themselves, and ultimately then to you, as far as trying to, do better or do different. They also say what we have is soul recognition. So there's a sense that they may be thinking of you as like a significant person, a soulmate. Maybe even for some people, they've explored the idea of, this being a twin flame connection, or they're getting ready to kind of embark upon that path. There's a sense that you are unlike anyone they've ever known before. They feel very terrible for kind of just assuming the worst about you or about this connection, or comparing it to other circumstances that they've had in their past, because you're exceptional. You're different. You are nothing like anyone they have ever been with before. And so the ways in which they almost kind of pushed you away, it feels like, is a reminder that there are some ghosts of the past that they are needing to exorcise before they are able to show up fully in the future with you. They also say, I'm still moved by you. Yeah, so there is a desire for a fresh start, something more in this situation. Even if there's a pause or like a period where you're not dealing with them, or maybe a continuation of that if you've already been in separation or no contact, there's a sense of they think about you often. They're very apologetic. They have a lot of guilt and shame over what has happened, and they're definitely being confronted by that, or are looking at that in a very conscious and an active way at this point. So let's get some initials. Can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got Z, R, K, D, O, F, L, R, Q, B, A, X, G, W, A V I T U M S V I E P F and B. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. You chose the rose quartz heart. So let's start by taking a look at the thoughts and feelings of your twin flame towards you and the connection at this time. Okay, we have the 5 of Swords, Knight of Pentacles, 4 of Swords, all tied up, the Temple Path, and Man holding a heart. So there's a sense here that your twin flame is falling for you very deeply. They're very protective over you and this connection. And there's a sense of almost like wanting to protect you at this point in time from some kind of chaos they have going on in their life, something that they're working to like wrap up or complete, that's almost like they may be a bit distant or disconnected from you at this point. A sense of like, I don't want to worry you. I don't want to make you feel like you need to come in and like help me with anything or fix anything. There's a sense of almost wanting to show or demonstrate to you in some sort of way that you're safe with them. They're a person who's willing to fight for what they want, fight for what matters and for what's important. And even at the expense of kind of like personal satisfaction, they'll get into the trenches and do that heavy lifting and that hard work in the interest of kind of creating a better life for themselves, for people that they care about. And there's a sense at this particular point in time that sort of like whatever they're working on at this point, this may even have to do with like their own spiritual path, moving beyond like outdated patterns, cutting certain things out of their life or people out of their life. It's like, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for us. I'm trying to contribute to making the world around me a better place so that our love story can flourish in a brighter environment. There's a sense that you mean so much to them. You're like this person's treasure. You're like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And it feels like they hate the idea that anyone has ever kind of hurt you. They hate the idea that they at any point in time perhaps may have caused you anguish. So they may know how they get when they're like stressed out as well. And there's a sense of, I don't want to lash out at you. I don't want to be short-tempered with you. I don't want to make you think that kind of like I'm participating with you in our interactions and I'm here in body, but my mind is elsewhere. And I don't want your mind to kind of spiral into worst case scenarios of what that might mean. And so there's almost a sense at this point in time, while they're not in the best energy, there's almost like I'm insulating you from like this aspect of me that is coming to the surface quite often, or is kind of the dominant energy that I'm sitting in. because it's what's required of kind of what I'm dealing with, what I'm going through right now. There may be something where they're having to kind of have some difficult conversations with people about sort of stepping in more of their authenticity, making a change in their life, that there's almost a sense of people in my life won't approve of this. I'm going to get a lot of pushback. And there's a sense of, I need to honor myself. And in some way, this truth aligns with kind of their feelings for you, the nature of your dynamic with one another, the life that they envision creating for themselves, and then with you further down the road, that it's kind of just like something that they need to almost break free from, or are in the process of doing at this point. And in the midst of that, it's almost like, even like if you have just sporadic interactions with one another, it's like when they touch bases with you, you remind them who they are. There's a lot of soul nourishment that they get from your experiences with one another, or the time spent with you is kind of, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like a relief for them. But it may be that what they're going through, this challenge, is almost like, I need to stay very frosty. I need to be very sharp. I need to kind of almost deny myself the warmth and the pleasure of our experience, because I got to keep my edge about me. I got to keep my wits about me. I have to make sure that I'm not backing down. I'm not being soft in terms of any kind of like push forward or cutting away from something, standing up to somebody, or just making it known, kind of like, this is who I am, this is who I'm becoming, this is who I choose to be. It's almost like reintroducing themselves to the world, laying down new ground rules for people, a new understanding of like things that might have been tolerated in the past are no longer tolerated. Creating ultimatums for people in their life that either have been obstacles in this situation, they may be defending you in this connection to people that have been kind of mean and nasty about it, might have been sort of skeptical, might have interfered with the connection in the past, or that they know how these people are, and so they could even be sort of like hiding the connection or sheltering you in this connection from like prying eyes or the opinions of these other people, because it's almost like, I don't want them to try to cut you down. I don't want them criticizing or questioning what we have, because it's none of their business. They couldn't understand or fathom the nature of our interactions with one another. They've meddled before, they've interfered before, and I'm not going to let them do that anymore. This may even be where they're kind of like breaking away from certain traditions, breaking free of like friends, family, associates, acquaintances, behaviors, beliefs. And again, a sense of like, I'm making these changes for me, but I'm also doing it for you and for us. Like they've identified something or a series of somethings that are just kind of, it's been very restrictive. It's been keeping them like in a negative mindset or in a very kind of limited way of living. And there's almost like the love you have to give, the connection between the two of you, it's very sacred. It speaks of a path of freedom. And so this is almost kind of like cutting ties with everything that doesn't align with, that doesn't support, that doesn't celebrate that expansiveness for them as a person, or in terms of what they want to develop with you in the future. So let's take a look at some of the blocks, obstacles, challenges, and fears that they're dealing with right now. Okay, we have firm foundation and victory and success. Yeah, so this may be something where they're having to really stand strong, put some boundaries in place, something that represents almost like karmic people in their life, or maybe even like a belief system that they weren't worthy of love and partnership, any kind of pessimism or jadedness or woundedness that had kind of caused them to be very like avoidant in the past, or, start having a difficult time sort of like receiving love from you, or just in general, that it's kind of like, okay, in order for us to have success in this connection, in order for me to kind of give to you in a way that is nurturing as opposed to, sort of inflicting damage on this situation, I need to change my ways. I need to move beyond something. And so it may be a big process for them to kind of just dig their heels in the sand, but facing in a different way than they had before. Like they're saying no to things they had said yes to, whether that is, toxic family members, toxic friends, toxic mindsets, toxic belief systems, toxic things they were participating with. There's almost a sense of like, enough, no more of that. I'm not going to let that rule my life. I'm not going to let that interfere with my own happiness. I'm taking a leap of faith in a new direction. This may involve cutting people out of their reality, closing out to the opinions of other people that have benefited from their brokenness, that don't have anything good to say about anything that would kind of fulfill this person on a deep level, or who have criticized or been very kind of judgmental of you in this situation even. That there's a sense of like, I'm not going to let them derail me any further from progressing forward with you. Or knowing how these people are even, there may be a sense of kind of like, I'm protecting the future that we can have with one another by not putting you through the nature of the experience with these people as I'm seeking to detach from it. Or arrange it into something else if it continues to be necessary. If they can't cut these people off altogether, it's almost like they're shielding you from the process of what may be a lot of conflict at this particular point in time. Kind of like locking horns with another person or a series of people, maybe even kind of them against sort of like a whole group of people, like a friend circle, professional kind of competition, toxic family dynamics, anything like that, where they may feel very much like they're having to kind of move off in an entirely different direction, and they're getting a lot of pushback for that, or there's an urge within them. It's almost like maybe the nature of what this love kind of brings out of them, or the version of them that's wanting to rise to the occasion to like meet you in love, experience that higher level love. They're fighting against kind of this version of themselves that would have settled for mediocrity, that would have settled for toxicity, that is trying to like pull them back into old patterns. They're fighting tooth and nail to kind of prioritize or breathe life into or get some traction on the other side of something that has awakened within them, something that has blossomed in terms of a capability to love, an understanding that like a higher love is possible with you and for themselves. And so it's almost, this is like a challenge to kind of fight for this connection while sort of keeping you at arm's length. Not because they're afraid of their feelings or are resistant to this, but almost like, I don't want you to get hurt in this process. I don't want you to personalize what I'm going through. I don't want to take anything out on you accidentally. I don't want to get triggered and like lash out at you because you've done nothing wrong. Nothing's your fault. And this is my way of kind of fighting for our future with one another, to kind of disconnect or rip myself away from my past, or like a past version of me that was closed off to love, or was only kind of capable of experiencing sort of like one-sidedness as far as love is concerned. So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you. Okay, we have Eagle, Communion, Nine of Swords, the Chariot, and Serendipity. So there's a sense here of almost making the sacrifice of temporary comfort between the two of you in the interest of kind of like long-term stability, something that they're trying to kind of work their way through. They're trying to wrap up a painful cycle that doesn't just involve dealings with other people or things that they had been participating with in their life that they understand are very counterproductive to like who you are, what you bring to the table, the dynamic itself between the two of you, that it's almost like they're struggling not just with those kind of material changes, but with the parts of themselves, almost trying to like reprogram their subconscious or the patterns, the belief system, fighting the inner critic that is kind of pulling tooth and nail for them to kind of just revert back into sort of taking the easier route, to just remain seated, to not get up and take a stand in their own life, to continue to just allow the toxicity they've experienced or that's been imprinted on them to determine what they invite into their life in the future and what they push away in the future. That they're seeing you are this opportunity to kind of rise into like a higher level love. And in order to achieve that in a consistent manner, they're working to kind of create that balance within themselves. To say yes to this connection requires saying no to certain other things, shutting the door or creating distance between themselves and other people and things. It might even be if they're having to like cut certain people out of their life or out of their reality, they're not wanting to do it while your relationship is public with one another, or where you're taking such an active role in their life, because they almost don't want to have these people come back and saying, well, you're just doing it because of this other person. They're influencing you. They're a bad influence, or, anything that would kind of make it so that these other people or these other circumstances would derail your peace of mind, your well-being, the life that you're living. Any of these people that might be meddlesome or toxic, it's almost like protecting you from the experience of that as it exists at this point for them, as it's been historically. Maybe these people have sabotaged relationships before for them, or have already kind of sowed seeds of dissent about this connection, about you, within others in this person's life, within themselves for a period of time. It's almost like they're breaking free of the opinions of others who might have questioned the connection, questioned you, disapproved of the circumstance. And this is almost like, I don't care what you think. I don't care what your opinion is. I know what's best for me. My heart wants what it wants. And so fighting for the interest of like a future with you by closing out on kind of a version of themselves that would have just rolled over in the past, would have succumbed to the weight of the opinions of others, trapped in toxic cycles, belief systems about love. And so it's almost like movement forward towards you and towards the next phase of your interactions with one another involves shutting the door, breaking free from, or in some way rewriting kind of the playbook or the rule book by which they are participating with, or are allowing other people to participate with them, that they've identified as kind of negative influences, people that just kind of like drag them down, benefit from their brokenness, are not contributing to kind of positive and uplifting things, but are just like making them feel bad about themselves, or are failing to appreciate and recognize and honor an evolved version of them. So it may be that you have like if you're still in communication with your twin flame, then it may be, that communication sort of continues, but it feels like they may be very distracted, very like dealing with some shadowy things that they could hint at or allude to, or you may just be able to kind of intuit this, like they're going through something. I need to just kind of give them some space. And so it feels like it's something to where steps towards you, it's contingent on kind of like closing the door to the past, or continuing to sort of choose this connection and the version of them in a balanced way that shows up in it, repeatedly at this particular point in time from a lot of compelling sort of forces inside of themselves or externally that are trying to like pull them back into this wounded or broken version of themselves that couldn't show up for you fully, or that might have showed up for you fully, but then would have sort of put the harmony of the connection at risk of being subverted in some kind of way, or interfered with in some kind of way if they hadn't like tended to these other sort of people or circumstances or energies or mindsets first. So let's get some guidance from Spirit about the situation. Okay, we have great teacher, learn from spiritual experiences. So this is all about embracing the energies of peace, trusting in your twin flame and what they are doing in the interest of working towards the future with you. This person is trying to like cultivate peace within themselves, inner peace, peace within their environment, peaceful kind of like interpersonal relationships. They may be working through difficulties with people in their life in order to sort of make amends, smooth things out so there's not as much like friction and stress that is sort of rolling over into their dynamic with you, or people that they're having to like cut out completely for their own sort of well-being, their own sanity, their own mental health, their own emotional health. And so trusting in where they're at in their process, in the nature of what you feel and understand in the higher level with them, what they've shown and demonstrated, giving them the opportunity to fight for you, fight for your heart, fight for this situation by turning and facing things in their life, other influences in their life that would undermine that love, that aren't the vibrational alignment enough to kind of like support and encourage and nourish the beauty of what the two of you have with one another, what you can develop with one another, what it is that they want to share with you, that it's almost like allowing them that time and space to kind of clean up their reality a little bit more, so that they can meet you and exchange with you in this way that is like healthy and harmonious for the two of you. So let's get some messages from their higher self and see what they want you to know. Okay, and they say you deserve more. Yeah, so this is that confirmation of someone who is trying to cut out negative influences, negative mindsets, set some boundaries with people in their life or versions of themselves that had not been kind of the vibrational match for the higher love that they sense is possible. Almost like, you deserve more than being brought into like the chaos of my family dynamic. So I need to set some boundaries with those people or cut them off altogether before we can build something beautiful with one another. You deserve more than, somebody who is pessimistic towards love, sees the glass as half empty, doesn't believe in love, or has a lot of wounds. So let me work on that within myself in order to kind of meet you at that frequency where I'm not mistrusting the beauty between the two of us, but I'm able to, show up and participate with that equitably. So this is somebody who's like doing work on themselves and on their life on multiple levels, and maybe a bit disconnected from you in the interest of like, I want to be able to bring you energies or like a version of myself that is strong enough to kind of overcome the challenges that life inevitably presents to everyone by taking a stand to sort of overcome long-term challenges within myself or within my other interpersonal dynamics first. They also say, I had no idea you would end up meaning so much to me. So it feels like there's a sense of almost like gratitude that you've come into their life, and in some sort of way the love that you've shown or the experience with you or what's awakened within them, it's given them the ability to see through the illusions of other things that they've had in their life that have kind of hindered them, allowing themselves to step into the best version of them, that have contributed to kind of narratives of lack. It is more than just, I never knew what love was till I met you, but it's almost like, I never knew that love could be so far-reaching, that this love or the light of love would shine so brightly that I would be able to perceive aspects of myself that have nothing to do with our connection with one another, that in some way were limiting me within like a wounded paradigm. So they're seeing that like since they've met you, since they've connected with you, the experiences they've had so far, what has changed within them, what's changed within you, what's changed within the dynamic, it is requiring change in all areas of their life. It's not just you nestle in with one another and you have like a little love connection. There's a sense of the power and intensity of this is seeping over into all aspects of themselves. They feel very empowered, very courageous, almost strengthened by the nature of your dynamic. The space you are holding very silently for them, like the silent vigil, or the ways in which you may be doing these same things. You may be challenged to do these same things in your own life. And it's kind of like we're working as a team in the sense we're standing up to people. We're standing up for ourselves, even if that's against previous versions of ourselves or others who didn't want to see us thrive. Like I feel capable of doing that for the first time ever because I've got you by my side energetically. I'm doing that with you as well. We have each other, and it's almost like moving through the mountains of challenges, vanquishing the influence of bullies or naysayers or, just limited thoughts that have kind of kept you both in the energy of sort of suffering and silence. That they're getting ready to be loud about their love. They want this love to be announced, to be known, everyone to see and to be aware. Like, this is the choice. This is who I choose. This is who I am. And in the process of that, it's like they have a lot of gratitude that you're not just leaving them to their own devices to kind of like sort these things out or deal with this, but you're either giving them words of wisdom, which they appreciate. You're modeling this for them, that they're taking note of, like, okay, we're both in this process of growth. We're both like going through this difficult experience or time together, or even just energetically, that it's like they feel strengthened by you as they are confronting some things, making some changes that are very difficult. They also say, I regret how I handled things before. So if there was anyone that had undermined the situation, spoken badly of you in the circumstance, or it even just kind of fed into consistently within your twin flame kind of the belief that they weren't good enough, they weren't worthy of love, or kind of sort of forced them into a box of being like a very artificial or contrived version of themselves. There's a sense of like, I hate that I put you through that. I hate that I exposed you to that, or that I empowered those kind of negative influences or forces to create any kind of stress and pressure, any sort of hurt and wounding within the circumstance with one another. Anything where they had taken the opinions of others and sort of run with that in the past. And there's now the sense of like, I want to reconcile. I want to redeem myself. I shouldn't have listened to them. I shouldn't have cared what they had to say. They're not even happy people in themselves. So why did I put my happiness in their hands? There's a sense of like wanting to present you with some sort of understanding or knowledge, or kind of like an offer of like, I've changed and evolved, and it's not just empty promises. It's not just honeyed words. I've taken actions to cut things out of my life that don't serve my highest good, that have only corroded our connection or corroded me in some sort of way. And so there's a sense of trying to like make up for the past in some way, or show up for you in the future you can have with one another in a more determined way than they had before. So let's get some initials. This can be a first, middle, or last name, or it can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got W, V, R, N, N, F, F, A, B, E, B, J, M, T, P, D, T, H, S, P, and see. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.